This is the first episode of The Haunted Hospital by Dr. Edward, a scary, thrilling adventure. After graduating from university, Dr. Edward got his first job at a hospital. The pay was good, the benefits were great, and the staff seemed nice enough. But there was one problem. The hospital was built in the 1800s, and it was originally used as a psychiatric hospital. At first, Dr. Edward didn't think much of it. It's not like ghosts are real, right? But he soon learned that there was more to the building than met the eye. One day, while working the night shift, Dr. Edward noticed a pattern. Every night, 3 patients were sent to the same ward, Ward C. They all suffered from different afflictions, schizophrenia, paranoia, clinical depression, but all 3 of them had one thing in common. They were all sent to Ward C. Now, Dr. Edward didn't know why they were sent there, but he soon found out. At first, the patients seemed to be getting better, but then strange things started to happen. They would wake up screaming in the middle of the night, talking to people who weren't there, or just stare off into space for hours. And then, just as suddenly as they had gotten sick, they would get better. But the relief was short-lived because 2 weeks after being discharged, they would all end up back in the hospital, now suffering from serious mental issues. One patient even ended up lobotomized, and all 3 of them had been perfectly fine before going to Ward C. So what happened to them there? Dr. Edward decided to investigate. He went through their files, trying to find a connection, something that could explain what happened to them. But everything seemed normal. There was nothing in their past that could explain their sudden illness. As he was going through their files, he noticed that all 3 patients had been sent to Ward C by the same doctor, Dr. Albright. He had a reputation for being the best psychiatrist in the hospital, so why would he send perfectly healthy patients to a place that would break them? Determined to find an answer, Dr. Edward went to see Dr. Albright. But he wasn't in. No one had seen him for days. The only clue to where he might be was a note he had left behind. It said that he was taking a leave of absence to visit his family. But Dr. Edward knew that wasn't true. He had checked with the staff, and no one had seen Dr. Albright since the 3 patients had been sent to Ward C. Where was he hiding? And what was he so afraid of? As Dr. Edward searched for answers, he uncovered a dark secret about the hospital's past. It turned out that Ward C was originally used to treat the most violent and dangerous criminals, many of whom had committed unspeakable acts. When the hospital closed, most of the staff, including Dr. Albright's father, had simply moved on to other jobs. But some of the patients never left. Their spirits lingered in the hospital, especially in Ward C. And those who tried to use the ward for its new purpose soon found themselves haunted by the ghosts of its past. The truth was that the patients weren't getting worse because of anything that had happened in Ward C. They were getting better. It was just that whatever illness they had been suffering from was beyond the scope of modern medicine. It was a curse, one that only seemed to affect those who entered Ward C. Now that he knew the truth, Dr. Edward felt a sense of responsibility. He had to help these patients, even if it meant going against the hospital administration. Despite the risk, Dr. Edward decided to take action. He gathered some of the hospital staff and told them about his discovery. At first, they didn't believe him. How could there be ghosts in a hospital? But as Dr. Edward explained what had happened to the patients, they began to understand. Together, they devised a plan to free the spirits haunting Ward C. They would do this by burning the very beds that the patients had been sleeping in. But this was no ordinary fire. It was a ritual designed to release the souls trapped in the hospital. The staff gathered around the beds and began to chant an ancient prayer. Then, as the flames grew, the spirits of the hospital began to emerge. As the fire raged, the spirits of the hospital began to emerge, wailing and gnashing their teeth. They were angry, but also confused. Why were these people trying to help them? But as the fire reached its climax, the spirits calmed down. They understood that these people weren't there to hurt them. They were there to help them move on. And so, with the help of Dr. Edward and the staff, the spirits of the hospital finally found peace. The hospital was now free of ghosts, and the patients no longer had to suffer their wrath. In the end, Dr. Edward realized that sometimes the most terrifying cases are also the most rewarding.